All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have our final reaction for today on this beautiful Christmas. So let's go ahead and get started, shall we? Yo, peoples! Kyushu92 here, and welcome back to another Jujutsu Kaisen chapter reaction and review. Last we left off, Sukuna was put on trial, and unfortunately, while Sukuna was found guilty, the only thing that was confiscated, we find out that when it comes to confiscation and the abilities of Judgment will take the cursed tool away from an individual before it takes their cursed technique. So the only thing that was taken from Sukuna, confiscated from Sukuna, was the Kamutoke. You know, the Supreme Martial Solution, the Kamutoke was taken from him, but he still has access to his own cursed techniques. So let's see what happens in chapter 246. And we get like a big old cover spread here where we see Choso, Maki, Kinji, Yuji, Meimei, Uiui, Ino, Higuruma, Yuta, along with Rika. And we see everyone launching in, where we see it, Ryomen Sukuna Raid and Makio Shinjuku. And that's not the name of the chapter. But we begin with, and remember, Sukuna started using his slashes against them immediately, and they both started to get cut. Oh no, my lack of combat experience is obvious. As he starts getting slashed across the body, but then Yuji screams, Higuruma! And then we hear someone breathe out a breath. And then we get Kusakabe. We see Sukuna. We see Sukuna looking as we see Kusakabe breathe a breath as he uses New Shadow Style, Simple Domain. Is the name of this chapter Ryomen Sukuna Raid and Makio Shinjuku? Because I don't see the title for it here. Maybe it's later on. New Shadow Style, Simple Domain. Not just the boys, but everyone's basic cursed energy reinforcement techniques have drastically improved. And by weakening my cursed technique with a simple domain, they've reduced the damage they take, although not as much as amplification would. I almost just died! Darn it! But I learned something. Not all of his slashing attacks are capable of cutting the world. Usually, some kind of binding vow or charge is necessary for broadening a cursed technique's target area. I know his voice isn't like this in the dub, but it's the voice I'm giving him. It's a fan dub. Bear with me. Sukuna has two types of slashing attacks. Dismantle cuts like normal, and the efficacy of cleave varies depending on the strength of his opponent. Dismantle lets fly a slashing attack. The slashes that cut the world are dismantle strengthened with a broader curse technique strike zone. Cleave activates when he touches his opponent, except inside a domain. Cleave, dismantle, released at zero range, and the slashes that cut the world are impossible to defend against using cursed energy reinforcement, amplification, or a simple domain. Thus, they generally result in instant death. What's creepy is he isn't using fire like in Shibuya. But I'm gonna guess he can't use it right now. And if he does use that firepower, which are capable of exercising a certain volcano-headed special grade cursed spirit, there's not much I can do about it. So there's no use worrying over it. Higuruma, are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. Sorry I got the death penalty, but confiscation targeted his curse tool. That's good enough. Finishing things with this sword is the easiest way to wrap this up. I'll protect you even if it costs me my life. Does that mean I'm gonna die here? Am I declaring my own demise? As he starts to take out a sword and he starts to resheath it because he's all like, maybe I should reconsider. Then Sukuna speaks. You've solidified your defenses a bit, eh? Next, let's compete with our feet. And then Choso gets his hands ready for piercing blood as Sukuna goes, "Wanna race, you brat?" As it shows this blood, as it shows blood aiming towards Sukuna, and Sukuna just straight up disappears. It doesn't even leave an after image. It doesn't even leave like movement lines, like he just instant transmissions out of place. He's just gone. He's just like snap, and he's gone. He's just gone. He disappeared? And he completely oh, I was about to say he clotheslined him. No, he impales Choso through the body with two of his arms. He just impales Choso before he could even move, with Yuji going, Choso! And I'm trying to make out what this is. He flings away Choso's body. Yeah, he flings away Choso's body as we see Ino jump in the air with Nanami's like curse tool that he always used for his own curse technique. He jumps up in the air, his baklava over his face as he prepares to jump towards Sukuna. And as the curse tool gets closer, it hits Sukuna and causes, we see that line appear in front, like that same line for Nanami's curse technique. We see that same line appear, and it causes Sukuna to kind of crater into the ground a little bit. A more powerful blow than I expected. Oh, I get it. That blood blade is that 773 hairstyle sorcerer's curse technique in a materialized form. And then Sukuna proceeds to kick Ino, and Ino blocks it by using that same curse tool. That 7-3 hairstyle. That 73, 7-3 hairstyle sorcerer. That same curse tool that Nanami uses. I don't know the name of it. I'm gonna look it up once we're done. And he kicks Ino away with him going, whoa, what a powerful kick! And as that's happening, we see Kusakabe, and we see Yuta circling Sukuna. And Yuji gets slashed, and Kusakabe gets slashed, some of it which he blocks, and then it shows Higuruma leaping over Kusakabe's back. He still has the Executioner sword. He still has it. And we see Sukuna barely dodging away with only a little bit of his hair getting cut. And then he proceeds to grab Higuruma's arm, hold on to it, and then beat him over the face with his other arms as he's holding on to him, gripping him, going, can you keep up? And then all we see is Higuruma getting thrown above while Yuji's distracted with Higuruma going, go on ahead, Itadori, as Higuruma just gets bodied and lands on the ground while Yuji starts... Oh, no. He throws Higuruma over him, and then he races Yuji. Go on ahead, Itadori. Don't leave Higuruma alone. As Sukuna and Yuji start racing towards Higuruma. Now, while that's happening, Sukuna is pulling away from Yuji. That's how fast he is. And mind you, Sukuna is barefoot, and he's pulling away from Yuji, no problem. He's fast. Then it shows Higuruma getting thrown through a building, still holding onto the Executioner's sword, as Sukuna leaps in towards the building towards him. And then we hear an explosion happen as we cut back in time when they were all talking into a room, with Higuruma going, or no, I think this is, wait, who is this speaking? Is that Kinji? Seems like Kinji. Oh no, this is Yuji saying, Higuruma's curse technique may be effective in saving Fushiguro. Will you tell us about your curse technique? It's personal info, but... Yes, of course. Without exception, the Executioner's sword kills anyone it cuts, but only if they have a death sentence. And Itadori has demonstrated that judgment can distinguish between multiple souls within a single fully fleshed curse. And then Maki. It's still Higuruma. If Sukuna gets the death penalty, and the sword cuts him, we should be able to recover Fushiguro's unharmed soul from inside him. Sounds good, right? Higuruma, do you want to die? Why are you asking me that? You can't use reverse curse technique, but you're willingly going up against Sukuna. I've given up on the law, and it's given up on me, so I want to deliver my own punishment. So I guess you're right. I'm intent on fulfilling my role and dying. I get it. I'm not much different, but I kinda think you should come back from this. Impossible. I'm already someone who can't look you in the eye. And then it shows Higuruma using domain amplification around himself while he has slashes all over his body. And Sukuna notices. Domain amplification. Did he neutralize my technique? Less than 2 months have passed since Higuruma awakened as a sorcerer. Since then, his growth has been extraordinary. So Sukuna was fascinated by the executioner's sword shining brightly again, guaranteed to kill, and by the man with talent equal to Satoru Gojo's. Ooh, that's some big talk! That's some big accolades for this man to have talents comparable to Gojo's. So not only do we have Chakaba, who has a cursed technique that can rival Gojo's, but now we have Higuruma, who's being called a man with talent equal to Gojo's. And he stands there with the Executioner's sword in hand, also using domain amplification. And Sukuna's fascinated by this. So what this tells me is that, well, basically, if they manage to hit Sukuna with this sword, there's a chance they can separate Sukuna from Fushiguro, from Megumi. There's a chance. Now we have an opportunity to get Fushiguro back for good. There's a chance. The only problem is Sukuna is not an easy person to mess with. He learned domain amplification in less than 2 months. That's not easy to learn. No, it is not easy to learn. Domain amplification. Let's see here. Let's see here. Anti-domain technique that envelops the user in their domain. I want to see the description of how difficult this is to learn. Envelops their domain thinly over their entire body like a cloak. While domain amplification is active, the user can neutralize the sure hit effects of any domain expansion. The technique will also neutralize the cursed techniques of anyone touched by the user, granting the user flexibility. However, its primary drawback is that an innate technique cannot be activated at the same time, limiting the user to relying on hand-to-hand combat. Domain amplification can also be used while using domain expansion, since the user's curse technique is imbued into the domain rather than being engraved in their body. So my thing is, let me see here. Domain amplification. It doesn't say how long it takes to learn it, but what we do know is that these are difficult arts to learn. Like, they're tricky to learn. Like barrier techniques. Let me see, to create a barrier, let me see. I'm looking to see how long it takes. This process, the process is very, let me see here. Withstand a can't miss. They are mainly designed for those who can't expand their own domain for any reason. Passed down, secret arts passed down in the pretty big families. It doesn't say how long it takes for a person to learn domain amplification. But for Higuruma to be part of this culling game for 2 months, has learned domain amplification. And now we're sitting here while Sukuna's just bodying everybody. Matter of fact, it'd be nice if I can get like the actual chapter itself, because I want to read through the synopsis so we can all understand what's fully going on here. Oh, nice. Okay. So they don't have the entire plot details, but the plan to get Sukuna the death penalty goes awry, but the Jujutsu sorcerers still place their bets on the Executioner's sword to win. His inexperience may have resulted in this desperate situation, but even Sukuna recognizes that Higuruma's talents and determination may just be enough to get them out of it. So now Sukuna's watching, because Higuruma ain't no easy mark. Who knows domain amplification? Reminder, he didn't know what that was while the Gojo versus Sukuna fight was going on. So this man learned domain amplification leading up to the fight after Gojo versus Sukuna. So that wasn't even mere days. That was like in an instant. Like in that single moment, he somehow learned about domain amplification. Because if we go to, let's see. Okay, so here's the usage for domain amplification for Higuruma. After Higuruma was separated from the rest of the sorcerers during their all-out battle against Sukuna, he was attacked by the King of Curses' curse technique. However, having learned how to perform domain amplification while observing Gojo's showdown against Sukuna, he learned how to use domain amplification by watching Gojo versus Sukuna. He learned it during the fight. That's how quickly he learned domain amplification. Having learned how to perform domain amplification while observing Gojo's showdown against Sukuna, he used the barrier technique to neutralize the slashes, mitigating the damage done to him. So this man, during the course of Gojo's fight with Sukuna, learned how to do domain amplification. My thing is, explaining how to do something with an individual is one thing, but putting it into practice and then being able to do it successfully on the first try, yeah, the dude's kind of bad. He's a bad dude. Hold on, let me go to Higuruma. I want to go down to his abilities and powers and just his overall strength. Hiromi was always someone considered a genius by those around him. He was a brilliant lawyer that regularly overcame the toughest academic and legal challenges. However, his natural talent as a sorcerer is what stands out most about Hiromi. He analyzed the innate technique that came by default with his domain expansion and learned the fundamentals of barrier techniques from that. By essentially reverse engineering barrier techniques, Hiromi attained an instinctive grasp on how to manipulate cursed energy. So this man basically reverse engineered cursed techniques and thus has incorporated it into his ability to understand them and how to manipulate them. He literally learned the fundamentals of barrier techniques from his own domain expansion and reverse engineered it, and now he has an instinctive grasp on how to manipulate cursed energy, which means that him having domain amplification is not something that's obscure, nor should it be a surprise, because this man has a full grasp on cursed energy completely. He's that much of a genius. Within 12 days of awakening his cursed techniques, Hiromi reached a level comparable to that of a grade 1 sorcerer. Before entering Tokyo Colony 1, Higuruma exorcised numerous cursed spirits. Inside the colony, he killed at least 20 players who attacked him. This made Hiromi the first modern sorcerer to score 100 points in the culling game. He was the first person to score that many points. Let me see. His talent as a lawyer perfectly translated into sorcery thanks to his compatible curse technique. He can prosecute opponents using his superior knowledge of law proceedings while facing them one-on-one in his domain. Once he succeeded in getting his target punished by judgment, i.e. having their curse technique confiscated, Hiromi has enough fighting ability to take advantage, allowing him to crush them using his shape-shifting gavel. Hiromi was able to convince Judgment that Yuji was guilty and took away his ability to use cursed energy altogether. He tried to take Yuji out immediately, but quickly realized that his opponent's resistance was due to his superhuman physical prowess. Hiromi responded by going all out, and his full might nearly eliminated Yuji, who only managed to save himself by demanding a retrial at the last minute. So he's also an expert armed combatant, superior intellect. Hiromi is extraordinarily brilliant, even by law school standards. On top of the peers who already believe him to be a genius, one of his senior mentors recommended he become a judge before even graduating. Hiromi has always readily overcame challenges such as his law school's entrance exam and the national bar exam. To him, it was just a simple matter of using the necessary effort to ascertain the required knowledge. This dude doesn't think any more than he needs to. He only thinks enough to win, and that's enough. He applies the same reasoning to being a sorcerer, making up for the lack of experience professional sorcerers would normally have. In just under 2 weeks, Hiromi studied and deduced the details of Jujutsu based on his awakened curse technique. While barrier techniques are complicated to most sorcerers, Hiromi was able to reverse engineer how casting barriers works in order to master control over his cursed energy. In under 2 weeks, this man mastered his cursed energy completely. The man's insane. When Judgment confiscated Yuji's cursed energy, Hiromi was quick to figure out that this occurred because Yuji does not possess an innate cursed technique. He also surmised that sorcerers normally lose their instincts after having their cursed technique taken away. While not having cursed energy is even more disadvantageous, Yuji survived Hiromi's onslaught with pure innate talent. Rather than write Yuji off, Hiromi the threat, this is a weird sentence. Rather than write Yuji off, Hiromi saw the threat he possessed and never Hiromi saw, they're missing a word here. Hiromi saw the threat he possessed and never underestimated Yuji. Instead, he immediately poured all his effort into crushing Yuji before giving him any chance. So for Jujutsu, he has great cursed energy, born a non-sorcerer and lived that way most of his life until he was given the capacity to develop a cursed technique by Kenjaku, manifested high levels of cursed energy and a powerful cursed technique capable of standing out among all the calling game players. After grasping the nature of his domain, Hiromi was able to master cursed energy reinforcement as well. And of course, he has his Shikigami Judgment, domain amplification, expands Hiromi's domain over his body like an aura, allowing him to neutralize cursed techniques that come into contact with him. While domain amplification is active, his innate cursed technique cannot be activated, causing anything created with it, such as the Executioner's Sword, to disappear. And then, of course, we have his deadly sentencing domain expansion. But overall, the dude is insane. I understand why they're saying that Higuruma has talent comparable to Gojo himself. Everything you just heard me read out about Higuruma, this man is a genius. He is the Neji of the Jujutsu Kaisen world. And now he's learning now he's just activating domain amplification. As it looks, now mind you, he's supposed to be having domain amplification around himself, and in the process, Executioner's Sword is supposed to be disappearing as well. But he's still keeping the Executioner's Sword activated while he's using domain amplification. Like, this man is using domain amplification, and that's the reason why he was able to oh, wait. Okay, I get it now. He used domain amplification to nullify the slashes, but he's not just completely covered in domain amplification, which is why Executioner's Sword is back. Okay, I get it. I understood now. So he activates domain amplification to dissipate the slashes and mitigate the damage, then dissipates it just so he can activate Executioner's Sword again, but it also shows his body just completely coursing with cursed energy, which means that he's preparing to fight Sukuna. And Sukuna is interested. Overall, and that's the end of the chapter. Overall, I think that's why Sukuna is very intrigued. Hopefully he doesn't have the same fate as Neji. Hopefully. He puts the pro in Prodigy. Yes, he does. Overall, I enjoyed this chapter, but all I can really say is that, man, what a year for Jujutsu. We saw the return of Gojo. We saw Gojo going up against Sukuna, and just how serious of a threat, messing with my screen here, just how serious of a threat Gojo is to Sukuna had it not been for Maharaga and him adapting to the slash so that Sukuna could then create world-slicing slashes of his own. Then Sukuna would have lost. But because of the person whose body he inhabits, he took advantage of that, and in the process, we lost Gojo. If he learns reverse curse technique, then he's going to be one of the strongest. He is. The dude, it literally just said he has strength comparable to that of a grade 1 sorcerer, on par with a grade 1 sorcerer. He's not special grade yet, but given the fact that this man's a genius and he knows the ins and outs of his own cursed energy and cursed technique to the point where he can do something like domain amplification without much training, and he just does it straight off the bat, and he's so casual with it too. It's one thing to have a genius who has it's one thing to have a person who's just like has a true understanding of power and stuff. Like you get a bunch of geniuses in a whole bunch of anime and a whole bunch of different series, but the last biggest genius we got was Gojo, and now the next one we have is Higuruma, and he's up against Sukuna, and even Sukuna's all like, let's watch him cook just a little bit, because you never know. But what a chapter to end this year on, right? We end with Higuruma preparing to face off against Sukuna, having already shown that he's fully capable of using domain amplification so easily just by watching Gojo fight Sukuna. Just by watching someone else fight, he learned the concept and understood the concept of domain amplification. It's like this man's a living Sharingan. He saw something, and now he's able to replicate it. Like, at least the basic applications of it. Not along the lines of Sharingan and can't copy Kekkei Genkais. The same way that he can copy the basic applications of cursed energy, but not the more innate stuff like innate techniques or even domain expansions. He pretty much functions the same way as a living Sharingan, just copies what he sees. And he's capable of doing that so easily. Higuruma reminds Kenjaku and Sukuna of sorcerers back in the Heian era. Probably that's why they find him interesting. Sharingan or like Taskmaster. Yeah, Taskmaster is actually a good example. Seeing and replicating what he's watching and replicating what he's seeing. Higuruma really does stand out. And here I thought he was just like some other random dude that Yuji was gonna have to beat, but he's just been so nonchalant with his expression. And yet this dude is just so smart that he's all like, domain amplification. If I know my cursed technique and cursed energy like I think I do, I should be able to replicate it. And he just does it. Higuruma's a genius. But we're going to have to see if that's enough to allow him to survive fighting Sukuna, and hopefully use the Executioner's Sword to separate Sukuna from Megumi, and whether or not Sukuna is still going to exist as a tangible being if he's separated from a vessel. That's the question. We've always seen Sukuna attached to a person. We've seen him in a previous life, but we don't know if he's still going to have like a fully corporeal body if he's separated from Megumi. We're going to have to see what happens next year. Next year, everybody. Man, because we're not getting a chapter next Sunday. Because next Sunday is going to be the New Year's. It's going to be the final day of the year, and we're not getting a chapter from anything. No My Hero, no One Piece, and no Jujutsu. We're on a break until the new year. Until supposedly Friday. Not 14 days from now, but 12 days from now. So it's kind of an interesting pairing for them to release chapters at that time. But we're going to have to see. We're going to have to see. All in all, I enjoyed today's chapter. I really did. Because it just shows you how adamant they are in beating Sukuna. And how Sukuna just finds everything just one big joke. But all it's going to take is for someone to make him lose that grin and think like, okay, I need to get serious now. And then we're probably going to see even more from Sukuna. Because you can't tell me that him just using slashes is all he can do. We still don't know what his innate technique is. We know he can manipulate cursed energy to cause different effects, but it doesn't have a name. We don't truly know what his innate technique is. Like, if I pull up Sukuna, and I go down, and don't worry, I won't be long, I'm going to end after I go through this. If we go to his innate technique, we don't even know what it is. We know he can use this technique to perform slashes, but we still don't know what all he can do with it. And I stand by the idea that his innate technique is essentially him using his cursed energy to perform any sort of feat he desires. Which is why he was able to copy Jogo with, Fuga, and then open it, and then kill Jogo with a technique like his own, but only stronger. So I honestly feel like with Sukuna, it's his ability to just create any type of technique and not be limited to one specific type, which is why he can put out invisible slashes and also fire powers as well. But we currently don't know what Sukuna's curse technique is, and I really hope we find out in the future so we can get a far better grasp on why this dude is known as a king of curses. Not just because of his strength, but also because of, his curse technique as well. So I hope we find that out. But I'm tired, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to kick back and relax before the family gets here with food. I enjoyed reading all of these chapters for One Piece, My Hero, and Jujutsu, all for you. I enjoy doing like these fan dubs and everything for all of you. It really does give me joy to just do all of these for you. And as we get closer and closer to the end of the year, I just want to say how much of a blessing you have all been to my life as I, set out, continue on this journey of me running my entire channel full time. Still to this day, I don't regret leaving the previous job that I had. in order to do this every single day, it's just been a blessing, and I just want to say thank you. But I'm done. Hope you all enjoyed. Can't wait to see you all in my next video. Like, comment, and subscribe because it helps the channel, and even become a member because I am always looking forward to entertaining you. So have a fantastic day, and once again, as always, Merry Christmas, and later, peoples!